Tom Burke is the chairman of the E3G, Third Generation Environmentalism think tank. He's also a former government advisor on environmental policy. Very good evening to you.
Good evening.
Do you think how do you think most people are going to take it if they do have to spend 10 grand upgrading the boiler?
Well, if they did have to spend, most people, 10 grand, they'd be very upset. But what you're referring to is a story where the headlines are running way ahead of what's actually the story. So it's strange. You've got this number, which is not, there's no source for the number, has turned up in a report of leaks from a consultation document. So I think people are building a sort of mountain of speculation on not very much in the way of fact about what is actually being proposed. And from what I understand it in relation to heat pumps, there may be something in the heat strategy that's due out this week that talks about heat pumps for owner-occupiers. So it's not even like everybody, but certainly if most people's reaction to being asked to cough up £10,000 for their own house they'd be pretty cross.
Yes, that's right. Let me try out another number on you then. The government's target to decarbonize buildings means installing 600,000 heat pumps a year by 2028.
Yeah, and it's well behind where it needs to be in getting that program going. And one of the interesting things about that figure, which there was no source for, of £10,000, all our experience with renewables is if you deploy them fast, the cost of doing what you deploy goes down. Sure, the same will be true for heat pumps. So I'd be careful about the figure, but you're absolutely right to pick up the fact the government is well behind where it needs to be in deploying them.
And stupid question, what is a heat pump?
It's an air conditioner in reverse, if you like. Instead of pumping warm air out in order to cool the house, it pulls warmth out of the air into the house in order to warm the house. So it's like an air conditioner working in reverse. You warm a house instead of cooling a house by much the same process, using temperature differential and using the technology to make that temperature differential create comfort.
And in your experience, how much would a heat pump cost?
Well, I don't have any experience, so I can't speak from my own experience. I think the figure that's being quoted at the moment is pretty speculative figure.
Okay.
And as I say, if you deploy 600,000 a year, whatever that figure is, it will come down very fast. And can I set one bit of context on this topic?
Please.
We're talking about owner-occupiers. In the average price for a house these days in Britain, about £300,000. That you want to set, and then the proposal is that as you sell houses on, that you would then change the boiler. That's only a proposal. Then you're not talking about a very significant part of the price of the house. So you need to get this number in proportion.
No, but I understand that. But we're looking by 2028 at 4.2 million heat pumps needing to be installed over the course of the next 7 years. If we don't reach that number, then the chances of reaching net zero with gas boilers knocking around still are presumably very low.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's right. And I think that's why the government really needs to get on beyond consulting and actually getting on with coming up with a policy to deploy these boilers. There's huge support for it from industry. We saw the CBI talking about it today. The energy industries have been talking about it. It's not that there's a big resistance from the energy industries or the business community to doing this. There's a real absence of any driver energy because the government simply hasn't put its policy together. Now, it may be because it's afraid of headlines and ill-informed headlines like the one we're seeing at the moment.
Well, so let's conservatively cut the cost that is being outlined here from 10 grand to 5 grand, right? Let's for argument's sake, say it's 5 grand. So 600,000 heat pumps a year by 2028, 4 point something million in that time. You're looking at over 2 billion quid. Conservatively for replacing gas boilers. Where should that come from?
spread over that time. It'll come, as all our energy costs do. It eventually comes from the consumers of energy. So it comes from householders and businesses. But if you do it badly, this can be very expensive. If you do it cheaply, if you do it smartly, it need not be expensive. So the goal at the end of the day, remember, will reduce energy bills. So one of the ways to make sure that you do this smartly is to get on with improving the energy efficiency of our buildings, which the government just made a complete cock-up with. And I see in the same Bloomberg article that I've been reading, I see a reference to the fact that actually the Prime Minister is very focused on putting that policy back in train. So you can take money off people's bills with one hand, even if you're putting it on with the other hand, so that the actual perceived pain is perhaps not quite as great as some people are hoping to promote it with a kind of Project Fear.
Yeah. And listen, Tom, it's a heck of a tough ask, but how would you persuade or cajole either the government or the homeowner, the occupier? They're selling their house. I'm about to sell my house. I've got an aging gas boiler upstairs. It does the job, but it's definitely not environmentally friendly enough. There might be at some stage in the future either a compulsion for me to have to change that before I can sell my house, or someone says, listen, you really need to update this and get a heat pump. Persuade the homeowner that they should have to pay for it, or should the government be able to give them grants, thereby everybody effectively pays for it, to change that to a heat pump themselves?
Well, as I think that as replacing an old piece of kit is going to give you all kinds of additional benefits. So I think the homeowner has to play a part of that. But when it's a capital cost, you can make a lot of difference if you make available to a homeowner the capital cost at the price the government is paying for it. So homeowners will be borrowing money at maybe 5-10% to pay for that investment, whereas the government can borrow it right now at about 1%. So there's a real role for the government to help homeowners actually make what is, in any case for them, a smart decision.
All right, Tom, great to speak to you. Thank you, Tom Burke, chairman of E3G, third generation environmentalism think tank. He's also a former government advisor on environmental policy.